Now, we still don't know for 100% certain that Islam Makhachev used an IV to rehydrate himself at UFC 284 illegally, according to the Australian Commission, which we're going to get into in today's video. However, Ali Abdelaziz's deleted tweet that he posted not long ago has made it very, very difficult to deny that there's like a 99% chance that Islam Makhachev used an IV at UFC 284 intentionally or unintentionally. Maybe he didn't understand the rules and didn't know that there were no IVs allowed in Australia. I mean, I didn't even know that there were IVs allowed in general for any reason, and we found that out, which we're going to get into in today's video as well, let alone them not being allowed specifically in Western Australia. So I'm on the same boat as Islam Makhachev if he didn't know about it and used an IV thinking he could get away with it. However, Ali Abdelaziz has toppled the entire investigation, and I think this is now a serious issue that does need investigation by the UFC. We're going to start straight away with Eugene Bareman talking on Ariel Helwani's show about the use of an IV and how he came to get the information that maybe there was an IV being used by someone on Islam Makhachev's team. Let's start here. Wait, you guys got to hear this. So I've got to turn on the sound. Give me a second. Okay, here we are. Is there anything you can say about this accusation, says Ariel Helwani.
About this accusation.
We have reliable information.
We have reliable information. Now, I'm sorry, this is going to take a while because Eugene Bareman does this really annoying thing when he speaks, where he takes literally 10-second gaps between words that he says. So, it's going to take a little bit of time to get through some of the information that he says here. But he says we have reliable information. What is that information, Eugene?
To a point. And I will half plead the fifth. Can you half plead the fifth?
You could plead the 2.5?
Look, yeah, the 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the information, it falls short because for several reasons, and one of them is that you can actually take an IV before a fight.
Which I didn't know about, which I guess we can go... you know what? I'm going to watch his interview and I'm going to cut to the information. That sounds like a very easy and simple thing to do. So he says, I didn't know that you actually can use an IV before a fight. And we're going to go straight to that information right away here, which is that Brett Okamoto sort of reached out and said, according to the UFC USADA handbook, an IV can be used if it is determined to be medically justified and within the standard of care by a licensed physician and administered by a licensed medical professional. And he said, I sought further clarification, and here's the bottom line. If an athlete is administered an IV of more than the permitted 100 milligrams, I guess, or milliliters, whatever it is, milliliters, yeah, as long as it's done by a licensed pro, it's not a violation. Even in the cases where dehydration caused by a weight cut is the issue being treated, which is very interesting. Okay, so if it's like a medical emergency, then that would be something. In other words, IVs used to treat severe dehydration caused by cutting weight are not really banned as long as a physician is the one to justify and perform it. However, in Australia, they are banned. This is the problem that we're running into here. And this is what is going on in Australia's commission right now. So I'm going to jump to this information. We're just going straight into all of the information here. The Commission will include the following words in its code of conduct to prohibit rapid weight loss by dehydration. There should be no attempt to make weight by any artificial means to dehydrate. As such means increase the risk that contestants may be seriously or even fatally injured during contests. I believe this is because a few people actually died trying to make weight for certain events over there in Western Australia, so then they implemented this rule. In the interests of contestant safety, the Commission prohibits the use of heat suits, saunas, and any other device which purposefully increases body temperature and or dehydrates the contestant. So I don't know if this is like not only did Makhachev cheat, but maybe everyone on the entire card could have cheated here. So I'm just going to say this. If the UFC weren't fully aware of this before, if they are now, I don't think they're going back to Western Australia is all I'm going to say. Because no saunas, dude? Hey, I know that Australia in some areas is a sauna in itself if you're at the right time of the year. But no saunas? That is interesting, to say the least. No heat suits or anything like that either. That's just absolutely crazy. But those are the rules according to Australia. So not only did Islam Makhachev, if he did use the IV, cheat potentially, but apparently the rest of the entire card cheated as well. We're then going to go into another thing here, which is on the screen, which is a bit more on it. The commission also prohibits the use of intravenous therapies which are used for aiding rehydration from excessive and deliberate dehydration. Any promoter, trainer, or other person registered with the commission found to be encouraging the use of such methods will be sanctioned by the commission. Any contestant known to be using these methods will not be allowed to compete. So this is really serious. I really do think, I don't know about you guys, but we're going to have an investigation here. On the IV, we kind of have to have an investigation into if Islam Makhachev or anyone on his team used an IV. Because Eugene Bareman's going to go on to say that his information is somewhat flawed because
it just has to be 100 mils.
You know, he says it has to be 100 mils.
Saline with every 12 hours in a 12-hour block. Okay, so what it more has to come down to is whether you believe that people are gonna take this saline, 100 mils, and then stop.
Mm-hmm. The reason I have a problem with IVs being allowed in general in this regard, I thought they were banned. I can't believe that it took a massive, like, maybe or maybe not a mark on Islam Makhachev's arm that looked like an IV mark. That could have been a USADA test, but looked, according to Dan Hooker, it took Dan Hooker angrily tweeting at Islam Makhachev for us to uncover a ton of information that no one in the space was aware of. Like, surely there should have been some kind of massive announcement. By the way, start of the event, we're changing this rule set, that rule set. I don't remember any of this. But okay, either way, we're going to keep going here. Because I think IVs shouldn't be allowed in general, because you give them a, you know, you give them a meter, they'll take a mile, I believe is the phrase. You know? Like, you give them the IV for 100 ml for 12-hour period. They start trying to get a bit more out of it. They start trying to do some stuff. You know that we had a big problem with blood doping with IVs in the sport before. So I think just get rid of them altogether. But apparently not. Apparently they're still about. Paulo Costa must be annoyed because he literally got banned for this. So maybe after Paulo Costa got banned, then they started implementing the rule that you're only allowed to use a certain amount to help yourself rehydrate.
The information also falls short is that, and the fact that from that team, there were 2 fighters.
And this is where Eugene Bareman goes into, like, Eugene Bareman's very reasonable. Ariel always tries to bait him into saying that the Israel Adesanya Alex Pereira stoppage was bad. But Eugene's very level-headed, so he sort of, like, doesn't commit to saying Makhachev cheated because Zubaira Tukhugov was on his team as well, who, by the way, missed weight. However, he was up a weight class, and he looked completely out of shape. Maybe it could have been him. Maybe it could have been Zubaira. This is a question we have to ask, but Ali Abdelaziz's tweet.
There were 2 fighters from that same team. And the information can't reliably tell us yet which fighter illegally hydrated or whether they went over 100 mils.
The information can't tell us which of the fighters illegally rehydrated. Well, luckily, Ali Abdelaziz can, the idiot. Because he tweets out, in response to people saying that Makhachev used an IV, for all those idiots out there, very interesting, seeing as he just made this massive blunder, for all those idiots out there, any fighter under the UFC banner can take 2 to 3 liters of an IV, as long as it's done by a nurse or professional. Next week, I'm going to expose everybody. Islam Makhachev is the pound-for-pound king. So he's made it clear that this is in response to people calling out Makhachev for potentially using an IV. So Ali Abdelaziz is essentially, I'm not saying 100% he has, but 99% likely, Ali Abdelaziz has just outed Makhachev for using an IV. Because otherwise, what are you even defending? If Makhachev didn't, you would just say, stupid, he didn't even use an IV. You wouldn't even know about the rule, where they're allowed to use 2 to 3 litres. In fact, when it comes to Ali Abdelaziz talking about this, it's worrying because how long has he thought that 2 to 3 litres was the amount? That's something else we have to consider here. You know what I mean? I watched the Weasel's video on this, and he had Usman on the screen punching Covington, and that's an Ali Abdelaziz fighter. Ali Abdelaziz is often present whenever these American fighters especially are fighting in the USA. How long has Ali Abdelaziz been operating under this understanding that a fighter can take 2 to 3 litres of IV as long as it's done by a nurse or professional? We need a full... we might have to change half the championship results over the past 10 years here. Ali Abdelaziz might have just made the biggest mistake of all time. How long has he been... He didn't just come out with this today, because you can't look up and see that it says 2 to 3 litres. So he didn't hear the backlash and look up a response, because he would have seen, as Ariel says at the top of this tweet, yes, he deleted it because someone, I would think, told him he was incriminated himself with this tweet. You can't take 2 to 3 L by a professional or not. It's 100 milliliters per 12 hours, among other details. Massive difference. Incriminated himself. True. Absolutely. So he's sort of just like, if he looked up, like, oh God, let me find out, you know, what the response would be to if you actually can use an IV. So he'd still be outing Makhachev for potentially using an IV with his tweet, but he'd also be like, okay, well, you're allowed to use, 100 milliliters for a 12-hour period, and that's the tweet that he would post. But he puts out 2 to 3 liters. So it's not like he didn't search this information up and then put this out there. He's been operating under the idea of this with no one questioning him. 2 to 3 litres, you're allowed 2 to 3 litres of an IV, and Ali's a powerful manager that can click his fingers and get what he wants for his fighters after they make weight. So if I was anyone that lost a close, meaningful fight with a fighter that fights under Ali Abdelaziz, and he's been operating backstage with a lot of power and influence behind the scenes, under the condition that a fighter's allowed to use 2 to 3 litres of IV to rehydrate themselves, I'd be going crazy right now. Covington should be piping up. Like, a lot of people that are fighting people under Ali Abdelaziz that had a close fight against him, they should be piping up right now, because Ali has just ruined his entire management, like, roster. He's just incriminated his entire roster of people with his stupid, dumb mouth that can't shut. That's the problem with Ali Abdelaziz. Great manager, he must be. He doesn't take a high percentage and he gets his fighters paid really good. Can't shut his dumb mouth. And that's the big problem. Cannot shut that dumb, stupid mouth. Because now he's incriminated his entire team. Terrible. So not only is he heavily insinuated that Makhachev did use an IV, which, by the way, and we'll go to Jeff Nowitzki's tweets, is banned in Australia, by the way. You know, he goes into all of this information about how it can be used outside of the Western Australian thing. But in Western Australia, as I just showed you, under that commission, IVs are banned across the board. He's just outed Makhachev. And that's massive, because that can mean the fight gets overturned. And I also want to mention this as well. If it was 100 milliliters, which Ali didn't seem to think it was, because that's not what he defended the taking of. He defended the taking of 2 to 3 liters. The idiot. If it was 100 milliliters, the required disclosure, I can't speak, the required disclosure of such use to an athletic commission could possibly jeopardize the commission licensing the fight in general. So if you did take it and need it for rehydration, even having that information out there could lead the commission to cancel the fight for health reasons. So we need an investigation is all I'm going to say about this. That's what we need. We need an investigation immediately to find out if Makhachev used an IV. We need to. We need 100% an investigation on this. Because I didn't think, maybe, he used it a little bit. Who knows? 2 to 3 liters is what Ali is suggesting he was under the impression is okay. I wonder, what kind of conversation Ali had recently with someone to have that number in his head immediately that 2 to 3 liters was okay to use with an IV. Could it possibly have been someone on Team Makhachev that was in Australia that recently used an IV? Why is that number on the top of his head? Idiots, 2 to 3 liters, absolutely fine. That's how he defends this. He's just put Islam in it badly, and he's crumbled it. So I honestly believe we need a big investigation here to find out if Islam Makhachev used an IV or not. 100% now. That needs to be full steam ahead from everyone employed by the UFC and the commission. Jeff Nowitzki, USADA. Everyone needs to be going in on this to try and find out, because this is like a smoking gun, as they would say in some kind of crime investigation. You know what I mean? And we need to find out, because that fight needs to be overturned to a no contest if it turns out that Makhachev did indeed use an IV, which is illegal in Australia. Well done, Ali Abdelaziz, you moron. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Yeah.